Αξιότιμε κύριε Ανδριώτη, αξιότιμη κύριε Πουλαρμάνη, κύριε Καραγιοργίου, κύριε Σιδέλη και δάσκαλοι, αγαπητοί γονείς και αγαπημένοι μας τελειώτες. Καθιά συγκίνηση και χαρά με δημιουργήσω σήμερα που είμαι ανάμεσά σας. Ευχαριστώ θερμά τον κύριο Ανδριώτη και τον κύριο Πουλαρμάνη που μου έδωσαν την ευκαιρία να απευθυνθώ σε εσάς, τους νέους μας σήμερα. Θέλω να πω ένα ιδιαίτερο ευχαριστώ στην κυρία Σιδέλη, που είμαι εδώ σήμερα εξαιτίας της. Η κυρία Σιδέλη ήταν η αγαπημένη μου δασκάλα όταν ήμουν εγώ μαθήτρια εδώ στον Άγιο Δημήτριο. Για μένα είναι τιμή να είμαι ανάμεσά σας. Αισθάνομαι ότι είμαι στο σπίτι μου, ότι δεν έφυγα ποτέ από εδώ. Εδώ που μεγάλωσα, εδώ που έμαθα τα πρώτα προγράμματα, εδώ που έμαθα την θρησκεία μου, εδώ που έμαθα να είμαι περήφανη που είμαι Ελληνίδα. Στο σχολείο αυτό με εμπιστεύτηκαν οι γονείς μου για να μεγαλώσω με την Αθήνα ταυτότητα. Το σχολείο του Αγίου Δημητρίου με ετοίμασε να αντιμετωπίσω τις προκλήσεις της κοινωνίας μας, πρικισμένοι με τους θησαυρούς της κληρονομιάς μας. Τι υπέροχο δώρο! Δώρο ζωής στους νέους μας η προσφορά του σχολείου αυτού. Εξαιτίας αυτού του σχολείου μιλάω ελληνικά, διαβάζω και γράφω ελληνικά, έχω την πίστη μου στην θρησκεία μου. Ξέρω την καταγωγή μου σαν Ελληνίδα και την πλούσια ιστορία μας. Και τώρα θα συνεχίσω στα αγγλικά. I want to say that I'm really humbled to be here. This is my home. I used to sit right there and have lunch, and I see many faces I recognize, like Mr. Darius, Kira Kolari, my teachers when I was here. I want to share with you some, I hope, some advice that may help you in the future, based on my experiences and the things that I've learned in my life. I've gone through 4 law enforcement training academies, each one in their own right really harder than the rest. First, the New York City Police Department, where I started as a police recruit, followed by the Federal Law Enforcement Training Center in Glencoe, Georgia, the Secret Service Academy just outside of Washington, D.C., and the Department of Defense Polygraph Academy in Fort Jackson, South Carolina. Through it all, I can attest to one thing. It wasn't my sheer brute force that got me through, but rather the force of my will that did. I am no more talented or stronger than anyone else. I just learned how to harness my inner warrior and use that to find my limits and then push beyond them. My training gave me a blueprint to maneuver through the intense and sometimes volatile world in which I had to live in. They kept me alive, gave me strength, and propelled me forward. They altered my psychological mindset and weeded out any weaknesses within me. Ultimately, they made me into a warrior. You don't need to be a Secret Service special agent or join the NYPD to live by this. All you need is the belief that you are as capable as anyone else out there. Deep down in each of us, there is a fighter, or dare I say, a warrior. Although we aren't inherently taught to see ourselves as that way, I hope today that I may help to change that. In the mid-1970s, my parents immigrated here from their small villages in Greece to the metropolis of New York in search of a better life. With only a few manual skills, very little change in his pocket, my father set out to find a job. For weeks, he went door to door looking for work, only to be turned away time and again. No one was interested in hiring an immigrant who spoke broken English. One day, my father walked into a donut shop in Harlem, close to our home. I make donuts, my father said. I cook in Greek Navy. Not interested, said the owner. I'm really good. I'll show you. No, we're good. continued to dismiss my father's pleas as he politely tried to escort him out the door. Then my father stopped and looked at the owner, and he said, please, I just want to work. I work for free for you. You don't need to pay me. Just let me work. Maybe I get experience here to find a job. Hearing this, the owner let out a huge sigh. He then turned and walked away towards the small kitchen in the back. My father stood there for a long time feeling defeated. As he turned to leave, he heard a voice call out. My father turned back to see the owner approaching with a mop and apron. Here, the man said. Start at the front entrance and work your way back towards the kitchen. Then clean the counters and take out the trash. With a huge smile on his face, my father took the mop and apron and started to work his first job in America for free. 2 weeks later, he was hired. All those no's turned into a yes. My parents never went to college, and they never finished high school. They labored as most immigrants do to learn English, while trying to assimilate to the American way of life. Money, especially in the beginning, was a struggle for us. As children, my brother and I worked alongside our parents and grandmother, cleaning business offices on the weekends. I vacuumed while my brother dusted. When we eventually turned legal working age, we both set out to find jobs. My father did everything from drive a taxi, to make donuts, to work construction. My mother had a small boutique salon here in Astoria where she did hair for 35 years. Everyone in my family was working and working hard. The hardships we endured instilled in me the desire to pursue a better life. What I began to realize was that although many people came to America with nothing, they were still able to achieve their dreams. So why couldn't I? So rather than lose hope or blame others for what I didn't have, or even worse, blame my parents for what I didn't have, I found the wisdom to use what I did have to drive forward. And in the years that followed, I learned that I could accomplish anything so long as I was willing to fully commit myself. When it came time for college, I knew my parents would be unable to help me. My mom didn't even know what the SAT was. So rather than give up, I buckled down and paid my own way by working many part-time jobs and taking out a substantial amount of student loans. I went on to attend Hofstra University, where I graduated with a major in political science. I studied in different countries and lived in Morocco, France, Germany, Italy, Spain, and Mexico, just to name a few. I learned foreign languages and saw parts of the world I never knew existed. And for nearly 2 years, I interned for New York Congresswoman Carolyn McCarthy, where I worked like my father, for free. I always stayed the course and pursued my dreams, no matter what resistance came my way. And I assure you, I have had plenty of doors slammed in my face. Yet all this was possible because I never took no for an answer. My favorite quote is from philosopher Ayn Rand. The quote says, the question isn't who is going to let me, it's who's going to stop me. You must let go of the idea that you are entitled to anything in this world. You're not. Life doesn't owe you anything. No is something you will hear repeatedly. No is not personal. No doesn't care who your parents are, how much money you make, what kind of car you drive, or even where you went to school. Once you come to terms with this, you will overcome the biggest struggle, the biggest obstacle of all, yourself. You also have to realize that for every yes you receive, there will be a ton of no's that will come with it. Besides, it isn't the word no that has the lasting effect on your life. It is your reaction to the word that does. You can't let no faze you or alter your course. If the belief in your goals is stronger than your desire to quit, then no should be nothing more than a temporary pause in your path. Most people are afraid of failure, which is why most people are afraid to take risks. Human nature is to instinctually turn away from a threat. A lion is coming at you, you run the other way and hide. As a special agent, I was taught to fight that basic human instinct, to run away, and instead, to run toward the threat. my life, I have taken many risks, pursued many things, and I have failed most of the time. In fact, I am probably one of the biggest failures I know. Yet my failures are my most beloved experiences. You must learn to stop equating the word failure with something negative, and instead see it as your efforts to step beyond your comfort zone and grow. Once you learn that failure is the first stage to success, you'll stop worrying about how you look or feel and start focusing on doing it better the next time. The only reason we never succeed at anything is because we are willing. The only reason we ever succeed at anything is because we are willing to fail first. I want to touch on one thing, especially to the parents. When I went into the NYPD, I came home and I said, "Mom, I'm going to go be a police officer in the NYPD." And my mother cried, not out of happiness. Her response was, "Di prama te nasta, Lorici said, na pas me la scala, then you know that prama te discoveres." And she was very, very upset with me. I did it anyway. I went to the NYPD, and the entire time I went to the academy, I loved my mother, but she would not speak to me. In fact, when people would ask her, "What does your daughter do?" my mom would say, "Lei sta Manhattan, in the secret, and in scenografia." It was difficult, but I stayed the course. Then, because I did that, the Secret Service offered me a job. Then it was okay, right? But when I started filling out the paperwork for my application for the U.S. Secret Service, because my dad was an immigrant, I had to go to him and say, "Baba, I need your naturalization number because they do a background check on you." And my dad's like, "Yeah, I want to be a special agent." And I love my father. And he looked at me and he said, "Khalas Timorashu, they will not take someone like you. They will not hire you. You are wasting your time." I said, "Thank you, I understand." And I did it anyway. And then I entered the U.S. Secret Service. At the time, there was hardly any women in there, but I did it anyway. After working for 13 years and working in the White House, NBC came to me and offered me a job to work in television on air, in front of the camera. Again, I went to my parents and I said, "I'm going to leave the Secret Service and I'm going to work in television now, doing the news." You know, you work so hard, you look so sophisticated that you say, again, I didn't listen to my parents, and I did it anyway. I love my parents, and I listened to them with many things. But the things that had to do with my path, what was in my heart, I had to do on my own. And I was willing to fail on my own. And I knew if I failed, there would be nobody there to tell me it was okay. But if I had listened to them, and I'm a Greek girl, and back when I went to St. Eve, Greek girls didn't do stuff like this. I would have never done the things I have done today. I would never be working for a great place like NBC, and going on air, and traveling the world, and being around presidents. It's because I love my parents, and I didn't listen to them. Because sometimes you have to listen to yourself. Becoming a Secret Service Special Agent requires you to be able to do one thing well: endure 6 months of intense mental and physical anguish. The training is specifically designed to accomplish 2 things: to weed out the weak and forge elite warriors. Over the span of the academy, I spent half of my time in the grueling heat at the Federal Law Enforcement Training Center in Georgia, and then the other half in the bitter cold in Beltsville, Maryland. In FLEDC, the daily stress began at 5 a.m. Each morning, service instructors would take us out for a fun run, which was anything but. But now, mind you, There were over 90 different federal agencies with students training, and we were the only ones out running at sunrise. We would run short, intense runs. We'd take us out for shooting. The point was to take students' attention away from the finish line and focus it strictly on the task at hand, which at the exact moment was the excruciating run. It wouldn't tell us how long we would go. They would run us maybe for 1 mile or 10 miles. The point was to psychologically set you up so that you could deal with the struggle of it. Because usually we're only so focused on the finish line, and life is not about the finish line. Life is about the journey that you're going to be heading on. The point of training, the shooting, of the intense academics, the fighting, the combat, was to teach us to be warriors. And it's interesting because everybody would think that it was the strongest or the fastest person that would make it through the academies, and it wasn't. The people who made it through these academies, Army Rangers, Navy SEALs, they're the people who can suffer the most. It's the person who can endure the most pain that will actually make it through. I'm telling you this because life is going to be difficult, and you're going to go through a lot of pain. You're going to have good things and bad things, but you're going to make it if you can endure more than the person next to you. That's who makes it. So when you're faced with these struggles, just keep going and don't give up. And sometimes you have to deal with that internally. You can't wait for other people to tell you it's okay. You can't wait for other people to give you permission. You just have to figure it out on your own, and you have to be willing to fail. And the most important thing I want to close this with is, don't forget where you're from. This is my home. These are your people. Help other Greeks. I'll be honest with you, in my career, I never had any Greek help me. Why? Xeni helped me. Xeni believed in me, but not my own. Why? Change that, please.